Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Hey fans, good morning. Good to see you today. It is Monday, April 20, and here we are, the Bill Press Show, with you on Free Speech TV nationwide and worldwide on our video stream, Talker TV, youtube.com/TalkerTV, TAWKRTV. And indeed, yes, April 20, 420, Emancipation Day. It is celebrated all around the country as the day of freedom for recreational marijuana. And this year, the number of states have doubled. Now, 4 states which have legalized the recreational use of marijuana, Colorado and Washington, joined by Oregon and Alaska. There are measures on the ballots in 5 more states in 2016 to legalize pot for recreational use, including California, the big prize, and Vermont may become the first state to legalize the recreational use of marijuana by the legislature and not by ballot initiative. So things are really moving. Won't be long before prohibition against pot joins prohibition against alcohol as a thing of the past. Over the weekend, 19, count them, 19 potential wannabe Republican candidates for 2016 trooped up to New Hampshire, and the contest became who could bash Hillary the hardest and the most. Well, we know who they're against. They're against Hillary, but we have no idea what these people are for. President Obama, at Friday's news conference with Prime Minister Matteo Renzi from Italy, came uncorked when somebody asked him about the delays in confirming Loretta Lynch as his next candidate for a nominee for Attorney General of the United States. The president said, enough is enough. This is nothing but political gamesmanship. It is embarrassing. And he called on the Senate to act without delay, but still no vote has been scheduled. All of that coming up. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS and join the conversation on today's April 20 Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
John Kasich says he's waiting for a signal from God on whether or not he should run for president. I got news for you, Governor. God doesn't give a damn. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? It is Monday, April 20. Great to see you today. Here we are on the Bill Press Show. How was your weekend? Hope it was a good one. And you're ready to dive in again into the news of the day. That's what we're all about. We'll tell you what's going on here on this Monday morning. And then open up and take your calls. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. You can also send us your comments on Twitter, of course, at BP Show. And on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show as we boom out to you all across this great land of ours on your local Progressive Talk radio station from our studio in Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And, of course, we're looking at you, too, on Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream at youtube.com/TalkerTV, TAWKRTV. Good weekend here in Washington, D.C., and the team assembled here this morning, almost all of us, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello, hello.
Hello there,
Hey,
Bill.
good morning.
And Lisa, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Nice to be back.
Alicia Cruz off today with Monty Counselor filling in for Cyprian Bolding here on the Monday edition of the Bill Press Show. I got to tell you, a rare event yesterday. Carol and I went to a Nats game. It was not such a rare event, but what was rare was the Nats won.
Boy, oh boy!
With Carol in the crowd.
Good.
Very nice.
We broke her jinx.
All right. Maybe this season we'll let her start going to some more games.
Yeah. Well, she's got a few more tickets. So yeah.
Beautiful day for a game yesterday.
Keep her out of the playoffs.
It was a little cool actually in the stands, but it was better than sitting there in 95 degree heat. Yeah. It was good. And Nats won 4-1 against the Phillies.
That's another rare thing these days is a Nats win.
Nats are off to a shaky start.
They got the Nards band back yesterday. Look, we're down some players. So I'm not freaking out.
So no,
I don't feel great about it.
They're gradually coming back.
Yeah,
it was back there yesterday. But I love that stadium. It was fun to be out there.
It's a good time.
And it was such a good day that on a spur of the moment, the president and the first family went out to Great Falls for a little hike. Yeah. Late in the afternoon.
Yeah, I was getting a little worried because there was some rain coming.
Oh no! And just as they headed back to the car, it started to rain a little bit. Yeah, but
I guess when you're the president, you got it pretty well timed out.
But it was not on the schedule. In fact, they had called a lid for the reporters saying, "Go home, nothing's going to happen." And then they called them back and said, "Up." First family decided they wanted to get out of jail.
Yeah.
It's beautiful over there at Great Falls.
I love
it's great. Yeah, I like the Maryland side better than the Virginia side.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Better hiking.
Billy Goat Trail is over
there. Billy Goat Trails. Yeah, right. So, anyhow, good to see you today, and we've got a lot of people, good people lined up to help us get through the news. Friends from the National Journal, from Politico, from Huffington Post, and from Time Magazine as well. And what a cattle call in New Hampshire over the weekend. And guess who they were all talking about? But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple other stories making news. Bill, you're not going to believe the story that I'm about to tell you.
I don't believe it already.
But you're going to have to believe it because it's true. He's back. He is back. Tim Tebow is joining the Philadelphia Eagles as one of their quarterbacks. Now, if you are a Philadelphia Eagles fan, you have to be wondering what in the holy hell your coach, Chip Kelly, is thinking, because they got rid of Nick Foles, their quarterback, who had a pretty good season, and they're now stuck with three of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. They have Mark Sanchez, they have Sam Bradford, and then now they have Tim Tebow. You put them all together, and the three of them have one playoff win between the three of them in all of their careers. It's kind of a mess. I'm not sure what they're thinking over there, but can't wait to see what happens during the NFL regular season because it's
well, what I want to know is he still a virgin?
Well,
that's what I want to know.
He's not married yet,
and he says no sex before marriage.
Yeah, he's not married yet, so I'm guessing he's
either cheating or he's still a virgin. So.
About 10:35 p.m. last night, an individual climbed over the fence on the south side of the White House again. This person was carrying a suspicious package, but Secret Service swung into action, apprehended the jumper pretty swiftly. Charges are pending because, again, this happened sort of overnight. So
south side of the White House?
South side of the White House.
You know, it's less populated, so I mean maybe less well patrolled, but also pretty far from the White House.
You have to really book it to make it to the White House.
Well, good for the Secret Service.
Yeah. And Eater.com has done an unscientific poll ranking America's fast food French fries. They talked to editors and critics from around the country.
Hands down. No, it's all over.
Fast food
Five Guys.
fries.
Five Guys. Done.
Five Guys is number 2.
Oh.
Five Guys is number 2. Any guesses on number 1?
No, I don't care. They're wrong.
Number 1 is McDonald's.
Well, people do love their fries.
McDonald's fries are pretty good.
On the rare occasion that we cruise through to get stuff for the kids, a couple of those fries find their way to me, and they're pretty good. Number 3, Wendy's, which is kind of the real stunner in all this. Number 4 is Shake Shack. Number 5 is In-N-Out.
Whoa, 5 In-N-Out?
Yeah,
that far down?
Yeah.
And Shake Shack.
Shake Shack, yeah, they made the list.
I'm glad Five Guys is way up there, though, because they are the best in the business.
I must admit, Friday I went to the news conference at the White House with President Obama and Prime Minister Matteo Renzi from Italy. And it was a lot of work going to that going all the way to the White House and going to that news conference.
Huh?
And afterwards, I thought, man, I need a pickup here. So I went to Five Guys.
Yes, sir.
I had me a little bacon cheeseburger and French fries.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can tell you how good they are.
Very nice.
I didn't finish them all. They give you a lot of French fries.
If you finish them all, you should win like a car or something.
Yeah, I think so. You're right. All right, we got it. Yes, 13 minutes after the hour. It was the marathon. The Boston Marathon is today. The New Hampshire Marathon was over the weekend. It was 2 days. 2 days. I can't imagine any worse way to spend 2 days. But it was the big Republican gathering up in New Hampshire. They have this. This was sort of the coming out party, if you will, for this year's or for the candidates for 2016. They have this great big gathering. It even trumps the straw poll. The straw poll in Iowa used to be the first place that you would see get a chance to see all the presidential contenders. But now they've launched this thing up in New Hampshire. And count them, 19 showed up. There were 700 voters in attendance, New Hampshire residents, 19 wannabe presidential candidates. How could you keep them all straight without a program, right? Seriously, you'd have to have a notebook and kind of make notes as these people were speaking. But they were all there. I mean, the ones that we hear most about, of course, were all there. Jeb Bush and Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. 3 of them, of course, have already announced. But then all the other I mean, people who don't have a prayer were there too, from John Bolton to Donald Trump to Bobby Jindal, Carly Fiorina, Lindsey Graham. Chris Christie was back. And actually, Chris Christie had a pretty good weekend, it seems. The reports, most people are reporting any news that Chris Christie was dead as a presidential candidate are wrong. He does very well in the town hall forum. Yeah. And he did a lot of those up in New Hampshire. But it was pretty clear that there were some funny moments. I did mention at the top John Kasich saying he is awaiting a signal from God on his presidential bid. What does the Lord want me to do with my life? I mean, anybody who tells you that, just forget it. I mean, come on.
God probably has better things to do with her time than worry about John Kasich.
She sure does, yeah. And she doesn't give a rat's ass about whether or not John Kasich runs. And by the way, if you really want to know, John, don't run because you're not going to be president of the United States. Lindsey Graham said over the weekend, that there's now a 91% chance that he will run. Right.
I'm an optimist. I like to think of there's a 9% chance that he won't run.
Yeah. And Mike Huckabee made a little news when he said he advised that anybody who's thinking of joining the Army or thinking of joining the military should wait until Barack Obama is no longer president before you join the military. I mean, these people are just they're just hopeless. Kooky. But it wasn't Barack Obama who was the target up in New Hampshire. You might think so because he is the president of the United States. No. It's funny. All 19 of them made the subject of their remarks Hillary Clinton. In fact, the headline in the New York Times is, "At the Republican gathering, all talk is of Clinton. None of it is good." And they kind of all went out of their way. Here's a little montage of some of the presidential candidates. All 19, but here are 6 of the 19, starting with Donald Trump.
I do. I know Hillary very well. I do. I can beat her, and I think most other people will not.
Carly Fiorina.
She will pursue a set of policies that crush possibilities and the potential of this great nation.
And Lindsey Graham says, we got to win, and the last thing we can do is let her win.
At the end of the day, folks, the Republican Party's got a chance of a lifetime. If she wins, when are we ever going to win again? So if it's not me, for God's sakes, pick somebody that can win.
God. Oh, what a bunch of clowns. Rand Paul, Benghazi.
I think that her dereliction of duty, her not doing her job, her not providing security for our forces, for our diplomatic missions, should forever preclude her from holding higher office.
And Scott Walker, who also had a good weekend. Scott Walker from Wisconsin.
People like Hillary Clinton, I think they've got it all backwards. Somehow they seem to think the way to grow the economy is to grow Washington.
Just make this stuff up. And, of course, the one that we fear most of all, the outstanding, charismatic presidential candidate, the most of all time, probably the most charismatic we've seen since John F. Kennedy, Bobby Jindal of Louisiana.
We can win. We must win. We will win. It is absolutely critical that we beat Hillary Clinton come 2016.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So they all went. That's all they talked about. You could check out the news, the other news stories for the quotes from the others. I love knowing what you think about this. 866-55-PRESS. One more time here. To me, it just shows how afraid they are of Hillary Clinton. But it's one more case where these Republicans, all they ever talk about is what they're against, right? They're against Obama on immigration. They're against Obama on health care. They're against Obama on climate change. They're against Obama on Wall Street reforms or tax reform. They're against Hillary Clinton on Benghazi. They're against Obama on the Iran deal. They're against this, they're against that, they're against that. 1,000 reasons they'll give you why they don't like Hillary Clinton. They're against her because she's a grandmother, for God's sakes. They never tell you what they're for. I have no idea what any one of these Republican candidates is for or where they would take this country. And I have to tell you, I don't think you can get from here to there without being for something. I don't think the American people are just that negative. I think they want to know where you're going. What's your vision for the future? Where do you want to take this country? Not just what you're against or what you don't like. That's easy stuff. That's the way to play to the base. Meanwhile, talk about playing to the base. Here's a guy who's not running for office because he died. His name was Larry Upright. Out in Caribous County. I don't know what state that is. Peter?
I'm going to have to look it up. I'm not sure.
Yeah. At any rate, he died, and his family put a little notice that his wishes in his obituary in the newspaper, and they said they wanted people to, they could, in lieu of flowers, they could send money to the Shriners Hospital, and also the family respectfully asks that you do not vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Good grief.
This is part of the guy's obituary. This is how much they fear Hillary Clinton.
That was in North Carolina.
Oh, it's North. Yeah, wouldn't you know it? Right, North Carolina. Okay. This, I'm telling you, this obsession with Hillary, yeah. You can see, I think it makes Go Hillary Go all the stronger.
Yeah,
866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. Get your reaction here on this Monday, The Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes, 19 after the hour right now on Monday, April 2019. Wannabe Republican candidates for president show up in New Hampshire over the weekend. Every one of them reading from the same script, every one of them singing from the same songbook, all against Hillary Clinton. Even get this. Even former Governor James Gilmore from Virginia. Now, I have to tell you, he is not, on any list that I've drawn up of Republican candidates for president, but even he showed up and even he was given 30 minutes to attack Hillary Clinton. What's it all mean? Are they really that afraid of her, and what do they stand for? Here's John out in Minneapolis. Hey, John, what do you say?
Well, I just think that, the people that support these Republicans, that they've been so foxified, everything is so dumbed down that they can't really even think anymore. I mean, obviously, if it's all negative and they have nothing positive, then there's really nothing to think about at all as far as what, the level of political rhetoric and discourse in this country has just gone down the tubes, at least on their side. And I don't know what to make of it, but it certainly doesn't bode well for good government or a good politic.
Or doesn't speak well about the level of intelligence of the Republican voters in New Hampshire, right? But you make an excellent point. I love the phrase "foxified." But can you imagine, John, willingly volunteering to sit there for 2 days and hear 19 different people do nothing but bash Hillary Clinton?
It's just pathetic. And
yeah, don't you think at some point you'd want to stand up and say, "Hey, do any of you people have any ideas of your own? Hey, do any of you people have any suggestions or proposals about what you would do as president rather than just bash Hillary?" More calls coming up. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, here we go. It's 34 minutes after the hour. Scott Bland from the National Journal Hotline joins us in the next segment. Right now we're talking about the big circus over the weekend up in New Hampshire. 19, count them, 19 Republican candidates for those who talk about running, for some, and 3 of whom have already announced for president in 2016. Spent all their time talking about and attacking Hillary Clinton, the at least leading and only Democratic nominee so far. By the way, it's funny that now they have left New Hampshire. Hillary Clinton arrives in New Hampshire today for a couple of days to repeat the sort of listening tour that she did in Iowa last week. No big speeches, no big debates, just some quiet meetings with voters up in New Hampshire. Again, the fact that all they could do is stand up there and attack Hillary just shows to me that these guys have nothing to offer themselves. Let's go out to Lucerne, California. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining us. What do you say?
Hey, Bill. There's a reason why Republicans can't tell you what they stand for, because they have to take the Hippocratic Oath to run for office when you're a Republican. In this oath, you swear never to tell people what you stand for, to be disingenuous every time someone asks you a question about a bill you're proposing, and to always put your party before the American people and the country itself.
Well, I like that's the oath. I think it's well stated. And you know, Paul, this is no different than what they've done for the last 7 years in the Congress, right? They've put nothing forward. It's just been blocking anything Obama wanted. They've never had an agenda of their own, right?
It's because they don't have no integrity.
No integrity and no integrity and no ideas. I'd have to add. I mean, we certainly haven't. Think about it. I mean, what has John Boehner or Mitch McConnell proposed, other than repealing Obamacare? I mean, Paul. Hey, good to hear from you. Thanks. Which they voted to do 55 times, I think. I lost track, to tell the truth. What does Mitch McConnell propose? Blocking the minimum wage, right? Blocking the nomination or the confirmation of Loretta Lynch. Put nothing forward at all, indeed. So this is a big day today.
It is a big day.
Peter, this is your feast day, your name day, right? Congratulations.
Happy holidays, Bill.
Happy April 20.
April 20.
Yes. Happy Emancipation Day.
It's a very special 420 here in Washington, D.C.
It is indeed, because this is the first 420 in Washington, D.C. where pot is actually legal.
That's right.
Yeah. Did you bring the product in?
Do I have to answer that, boss? Of course I did. Of course I did. I have some in the other room.
A little show and tell?
Yeah, I can go grab some. You bring it in?
Well, I'm not going to smoke it. Right?
Of course not.
No, I mean, not that I would.
Not on camera.
You
got things to do today.
It's just a little too early for me.
You may not inhale.
Wake and bake, man.
But this is a very special 420. You realize a number of states. So this is the day. It's funny because people say, which I guess it is really not, that 420 is the police radio code for marijuana bust.
Right.
Which it turns out not to be.
It's not to be true. Yeah.
Not true. But somehow the rumor or the myth got started, and now people do celebrate. Remember, last year in Colorado was a huge celebration.
Yeah.
So people celebrate 420, April 20, as a day when we celebrate legalization of marijuana. But this year it's very special because the number of states that have actually legalized recreational use of marijuana have doubled.
Yeah.
Doubled from 2 to 4. I mean, still a long way to go. But Colorado and Washington now joined by Alaska and Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I checked last night. In 2016 so far, there are 5 states that have measures on the ballot, including my home state of California.
Which is amazing that hasn't happened yet. But
if 36 million people in California, I have voted. It's been on the ballot twice before. I have voted both times to legalize. Next year we're going to make it. I cannot believe that it won't happen in California. Of course, I said that before, but things have changed.
Things have
now.
changed. We're in a totally different age.
But that would be huge if these 5, and then 5 more states at least so far in 2016 have ballot measures already on the ballot, and Vermont could very well become the first state to do so by legislation, not through a ballot measure, which would be huge. The governor of Vermont has already said he would support it. He does support it. He would sign it. It's up to the legislature to do it. So this train is really moving fast down the track. Not as fast as the same-sex marriage train,
right?
Where we're now up to 37 states, I believe, and the District of Columbia. But you got, and I should mention also, it's 4 states already, plus the District of Columbia. So in the last year, 2 more states and the District of Columbia, which is huge. You know, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Matter of time.
And you know what I think is interesting now? I think we're, for the first time maybe ever, we're in a position where if you were to come out against marijuana legislation, either to decriminalize it or legalize it, I think that actually would hurt your chances politically, because I think the people have spoken in a lot of these places, and they're seeing the good that's come out of this, and they're seeing the money that they're. I mean, Colorado is making so much money.
Yeah.
So much money. And D.C. is going to see so many arrests go down, and the justice system is going to be unclogged on so many levels that as a politician, you might actually be hurting yourself if you go out there and say, we need to crack down harder on marijuana.
Well, you're wrong.
Oh.
Chris Christie doesn't agree with you, certainly.
Oh, no.
Yes. Chris Christie over the weekend said that if he is president, he will. That's one of the. Well, so he did say. I take it back. He did say there's one candidate who said something that he is for. Chris Christie came out over the weekend and said he vows that he will crack down on marijuana as president. That's his platform. Yeah.
You know?
But you know what? The thing about it is, this is not the federal government that's relaxing the rules on marijuana.
That's right.
These are voters in the states.
People are voting for it.
And if you really believe in federalism, as the Republicans say they do, if you really believe in states' rights, right, then you get out of the way and let the states do what they decide to do.
Yeah.
Unless you're infringing on the rights of everybody else in this country, you can't practice segregation. But certainly, and 4 states have now said, yep, we believe that we should end the prohibition against recreational use of marijuana the same way we ended the prohibition against the recreational use of alcohol.
Yeah.
And to its credit, I think, to his credit, President Obama, the Obama administration has said, if this is what the states want to do, that's up to the states. The federal law, it's still against the law under the federal law, but we are not going to enforce the federal law in those 4 states.
Yeah.
Again, you either believe in states' rights or you don't. Obviously, Chris Christie doesn't.
It seems that way, right?
Playing to the base. So happy 420, I guess. And you can celebrate it any way you want. And we encourage you to celebrate it in the spirit of 420. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got out there, you enjoy it in the studio here. We'll wait until after the show.
We will.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up, and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues, and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like Archimedes said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour on Monday, April 20. So there they are, 19, count them, Republican candidates traveling up to New Hampshire to the Republican Leadership Summit over the weekend. What did we learn from them? Scott Bland for the National Journal Hotline editor-in-chief joins us on our news line this morning. So, Scott, we learned they all don't like Hillary Clinton. But beyond that, what else did we learn, if anything?
Well, you know, I think a few interesting things came out over the weekend. First of all, it's interesting to think about how the way the primary calendar has changed going into 2016 has made New Hampshire more important for certain candidates. Florida has moved further back than it usually is. It's not going to be one of the first four states anymore. And so that really increases the importance of New Hampshire for, say, a Jeb Bush, maybe even a Marco Rubio. You know, that candidates who are looking to appeal a little bit more with the general election strategy, a little bit more across party lines, because independents can vote in the New Hampshire primary. And considering the fact that the Democratic one is going to be pretty much a non-event, it looks like, at least at this point, you may get a lot more independents than usual voting in these things. So that really ups the stakes. Between that and Florida moving back a little bit, that really ups the stakes for the more centrist, a little bit more moderate candidates going into New Hampshire. I think that was kind of lesson one.
Well, and that's why so many of them showed up, I guess. Another surprise was that people before this weekend were counting Chris Christie out, but he showed he's still alive, I guess, as a potential candidate. Huh?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, the Social Security proposal was potentially a very big moment, when we look back in a year or two on this Republican primary, potentially a very big moment. This is a plan. This is the type of plan that a lot of Republican operatives have been very, very wary about putting forward. They feel like they've done a good job winning or at least kind of pushing Democrats to a draw an entitlement argument focused on Medicare and changing Medicare. They're very, very concerned about the optics of an argument over Social Security. And so Christie's making a big gamble here, but of course he has to make a big gamble at this point because he's been kind of mired in all the types of things that a campaign doesn't want to be mired in. Trouble at home, bad poll numbers, potential fundraising trouble, potential indictments in New Jersey government. So it was a bold move, and to see Jeb Bush kind of agree with the premise of raising the Social Security retirement age very quickly, and to see what other candidates do over the next few weeks and how this affects the primary could be a very big deal.
How did Jeb Bush do in this gang of, I'm not saying they're all Tea Party, but they're pretty conservative Republicans?
Sure. From what I've heard, and when he's gone around in the past, his public appearances are very, very impressive. People like hearing him talk. He's not the best speech maker in the field, but he's very, very good at this kind of more intimate Q&A style interaction, which is obviously a big deal to a lot of voters in these early primary and caucus states. So it seems like he did quite well and got a good reception. And again, this of the early primary states, this is the one with the electorate that is most primed for him potentially. New Hampshire Republican primary voters are pretty evenly split on same-sex marriage and abortion, actually, unlike Republican primary voters in pretty much any other state.
Yeah, certainly in South Carolina, for example, which would be the next state up.
Exactly. Or in Iowa, which is dominated by evangelical Christians, the Republican primary there.
There seemed to be a cloud over Jeb Bush in New Hampshire, and in fact, his brother acknowledged that, George W. Bush, saying, Jeb Bush has a problem, and the problem is me. And we remember that George W. Bush lost New Hampshire to John McCain by 19 points back in 2000. So Jeb has to deal with that, I guess, right? Where he agrees or disagrees with his brother, particularly in foreign policy.
Certainly, and that's going to be an issue not just in New Hampshire but everywhere. It's actually interesting at this point if you look at the polling. George W. Bush is polling with kind of better favorable numbers than Jeb Bush in a lot of places. And I think what you're seeing there is after some time, people naturally kind of grow a little bit more affectionate toward presidents, even if they were controversial while in office. Right. But Jeb Bush is, I think, absorbing a lot of the negative things that people believe about George W. Bush without benefiting from any of the positive. And so that's something that he's going to have to kind of explain and enunciate on the trail, the areas in which they differ.
One thing I found, I was surprised, maybe not surprised, but I mean, Jeb Bush is also willing to disagree with the PAC on some issues, like Loretta Lynch, for example, just flat out saying a president's got a right to pick his own team and the Senate ought to vote to confirm her. Yeah,
Jeb Bush could end up being a very interesting test case of the degree to which people actually want straight talk. As opposed to saying they do. Right. And I don't know. I'm fascinated to see how that turns out. He's proving, he's not a candidate yet, and he's been kind of exploring the possibility for a few months now, and he's consistently proven that he's not afraid to disagree with people on his own side. That's very interesting. There really aren't that many candidates who do that. It
separates him from the pack, I think, for sure. But it was fun to watch, and it's just all getting started. Scott Bland is editor-in-chief of the National Journal Hotline. You can find it at nationaljournal.com. And, Scott, we thank you once again.
Thank you.
All right, Scott Bland, we'll be right back on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. And at the top of the next hour, President Obama coming uncorked on Friday when he was asked about Loretta Lynch and the delay. And in the next hour, Dave Jamieson from Huffington Post joins us. Peter?
You know, today, as we mentioned,
yes,
is April 20th, 420.
Yeah, I have my little
oh, you got your your medicine.
Yeah,
clearly, yeah, your medicine. Yeah, take a look at your medicine.
It's
there.
green.
It's a little green pill. It's 420, and so Bill Maher, from host of Real Time with Bill Maher, has a petition up at change.org. It is a petition to try and make 420 a national holiday. He says, we celebrate everything from Arbor Day to Groundhog Day to a national day of prayer. It's high time we need a weed day, according to the petition. You can, I'll tweet out a link so you can go and check it out and sign the petition if that's something you're interested in.
And this would go to the White House, you mean? This is one of the things?
If you got enough signatures,
you need 100,000 signatures, which you ought to be able to get.
Yeah.
I think you got 100,000 signatures. But I'll tell you, on this one, it'll be easier getting the signatures than getting Barack Obama, former weed smoker himself, to sign the petition.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket. and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey fans, good morning. Good to see you today. It is Monday, April 20, and here we are, the Bill Press Show. With you on Free Speech TV nationwide and worldwide on a video stream, Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV, TAWKR TV. And indeed, yes, April 20, 420, Emancipation Day. It is celebrated all around the country as the day of freedom for recreational marijuana. And this year, the number of states have doubled. Now, 4 states which have legalized the recreational use of marijuana, Colorado and Washington, joined by Oregon and Alaska. There are measures on the ballots in 5 more states in 2016 to legalize pot for recreational use, including California, the big prize, and Vermont may become the first state to legalize the recreational use of marijuana by the legislature and not by ballot initiative. So things are really moving. Won't be long before prohibition against pot joins prohibition against alcohol as a thing of the past. Over the weekend, 19 potential wannabe Republican candidates for 2016 trooped up to New Hampshire, and the contest became who could bash Hillary the hardest and the most. Well, we know who they're against. They're against Hillary, but we have no idea what these people are for. President Obama, at Friday's news conference with Prime Minister Matteo Renzi from Italy, came uncorked when somebody asked him about the delays in confirming Loretta Lynch as his next candidate for a nominee for Attorney General of the United States. The president said, enough is enough. This is nothing but political gamesmanship. It is embarrassing. And he called on the Senate to act without delay, but still no vote has been scheduled. All of that coming up. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS and join the conversation on today's April 20 Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds and migratory birds started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion, the channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well.
Casting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed. 19 Republican candidates line up in New Hampshire, and they all spent all their time attacking Hillary Clinton. Guess who they're afraid of? What do you say? Hello, everybody. It is Monday, April 20. Good to see you today. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. We are here in a rainy Washington, D.C., a rainy nation's capital, but still ready to go to bring you the news of the day. We'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, around the country, and around the globe. And most importantly, we want to hear from you about what you think about it all. 866-55-PRESS is the way to let us know. That's our toll-free number. You can also send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Hope you enjoyed the weekend, had a good time, and are ready to dive into the work of this week. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy on the job, leading up our team today. Hello.
Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
With Monty Kensler filling in for Cyprian Balding today. Alicia Cruz off for the day. So we're ready to go, though. Ready to go. And, you know, interesting, over the weekend, another the group of inductees in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Peter.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which we visited in...
Cleveland,
yes,
right? Indeed, just outside of Akron.
Yeah, we were in Akron, but
made the trip
up to Cleveland to the shrine.
That's right.
The pilgrimage to the shrine.
That's right. You gotta take it.
And this was interesting because Ringo Starr was inducted.
Look,
I know.
I got thoughts on this.
It stretches. It's a stretch. But what I thought was interesting is Paul McCartney is the one who made the presentation, and he talked about the day that when the Beatles were just getting formed. They discovered in auditions a new drummer.
And I remember the moment when he started playing, and we started playing. I think it was like Ray Charles, What Did I Say? And most of the drummers couldn't nail the drum part. It was a little difficult to do, but Ringo nailed it. So, yeah, Ringo nailed it.
Ringo nailed it.
You know, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has this thing where if you get inducted as a group, they feel the need to put you in for your individual accomplishments later.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney, great career after the Beatles. George Harrison, great career after the Beatles. Ringo Starr? Can you name one Ringo Starr song that wasn't with the Beatles?
Yeah. No. Right. But I just thought that...
That's pretty funny, though.
Imagine these guys auditioning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, history being made.
Yeah, right.
For sure. We got it. And we are going to make history. We're going to make history this morning, too, with some good friends from Huffington Post, from Time Magazine, and from the National... and from, Politico. Huffington Post, Time, and Politico. But first,
this is the
Peter
Full
with the big
Court
stuff.
Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Mark it on your calendar, April 25th and 26th. The White House is opening up their garden for their spring garden tours. You'll be able to tour the Jacqueline Kennedy Garden, the Rose Garden, the White House Kitchen Garden, and the South Lawn. The tours are free, but you do need to get a ticket, which you can get at the Ellipse Visitor Center at 9 a.m. on each tour day. So, having done this before, as I know you have, you got to get there pretty early, and so you can get your ticket, and you can get your little tour in to go check out the White House Garden.
No,
pretty cool.
It's absolutely worth doing if you're anywhere in the Washington area. It's a great opportunity. What bums me out this year, because I usually have friends and family come and take them through myself, is that this is the weekend of the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
This is Nerd Prom, you know, and so
Those are
the
ranch
two
and
that-
everything, huh?
yeah, gets in the way for me this year.
On Instagram, for this weekend, if you would put up any kind of photo of women's breasts, they would take the photo down. This included breastfeeding, which a woman in Toronto found out the hard way. She put up a photo of her breastfeeding her child, a woman by the name of Heather Bays, and they deleted her account altogether off of Instagram because you're not allowed to show photos of nudity. So over the weekend, they realized that they had maybe made a mistake, Instagram, and they said, okay, breastfeeding pictures are A-okay. They're still not going to allow just, nudity in general, but breastfeeding pictures, A-okay.
I would imagine she's sending this out like to her family.
Yeah, well, she put it on Instagram, which means it's everywhere, right? It goes,
Right,
it's out there, and so they were their point was, her point was, there's nothing sexual about this,
Right,
And
yeah.
so Instagram saw the error of their ways.
Well, good for them.
And now it's
And
okay.
Good for her.
Yeah. If you have ever given money to a charity or to any kind of association over the past couple years, there might be a little bit of a method to the madness of people collecting money. A new study shows that men are far more likely to donate money online when a male fundraiser is asking for the money, and it even goes higher if she is perceived to be an attractive woman. It's a new study published in the journal Current Biology that says that men and women donate money in different ways online, but the one constant that they see among women or men is that if an attractive female is asking you for money or is a part of the pitch, men are far more likely to contribute.
Men are such pigs.
They are pigs.
Did they say, does it work the opposite?
No, it does not work the opposite way.
Because I've always noticed my husband, we always tip at least 20%, but whenever there's a female waitress, it seems to be a little over all the time.
You should maybe have this talk with your husband, show him this study.
Yeah, but you know what? This is salesmanship 101.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Nothing wrong with it, but
Just shows how stupid
we are pretty
That's all.
stupid. Yeah, we are pretty stupid.
And predictable. And it hasn't changed.
Right.
I'm sure you can go back and find the analogy in the days of the caveman. Oh, indeed. Well, so I got to tell you, they call him No Drama Obama. Well, they used to call him that. Man, not anymore. Friday was really an eye-opener. So I went to the White House for the news conference with the president and the prime minister of Italy. I had met the prime minister once before when he was mayor of Florence. And he was in Washington, and I went to a party at a friend's house, and the mayor was there, so I had a chance to meet him. Matteo Renzi. He is young, he's articulate, he speaks beautiful English and beautiful Italian, I might add. And so I went to see him in action, and I went to the news conference at the White House. And they both spoke glowingly of each other. It was kind of funny. The Prime Minister said that he made a point this year for this visit of bringing the president a few bottles of Tuscan wine because he had noticed the last time that he was with the president in Italy, which was last March, that the president really enjoyed his Tuscan wine.
I'd like to know how much he enjoyed it.
And the president, when he had a chance to speak, he did say, well, Matteo is right. I did enjoy some wine when I was in Rome, but he said, I thought it would have been rude not to. After all, I was their guest, and they were serving it. So I just to be polite, I sampled the wine. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And he said, we'll see, Matteo, if he kept calling Matteo and Barack, right? He said, we'll see if these wines match the quality of the ones I had. Yeah. So at any rate, they got along well together. But then, so the questions came up, and Margaret Talev from Bloomberg, frequent guest on our program here, she asked the president a series of questions about Iran, and then she said, and I also want to ask you about the delay in the confirmation of Loretta Lynch. President Obama answered the questions on Iran, and then he sort of forgot Loretta Lynch, and then Margaret said, and how about Loretta Lynch? And the president just went, oh, man, he was
ready for it.
He was ready for it, and he was so angry. And I'll tell you, we sat there, I was in the third row, we also just sat there sort of slack-jawed, right? What? This is the dry professorial Obama we're used to? No, he was really mad. He was really angry.
I just want to make a quick point. If you're not following the show on Twitter, you tweet from these events, and you had some great photos, and you had some great comments. It's going to follow the show on Twitter at BP Show, at BP Show.
Yeah, I tweeted out some photos of the president, of Prime Minister Renzi, of the two of them, and comments on the president's comments. So a response to this Loretta Lynch thing. First of all, he just talked again about how long this has dragged on.
What we still have is this crazy situation where a woman who everybody agrees is qualified, who has gone after terrorists, who has worked with police officers to get gangs off the streets, who is trusted by the civil rights community and by police unions as being somebody who's fair and effective and a good manager. Nobody suggests otherwise. Who's been confirmed twice before by the United States Senate for one of the biggest law enforcement jobs in the country, has been now sitting there longer than the previous 7 Attorney General nominees combined. And there's no reason for it.
Yeah. I gave you those numbers last week. As of today, since the time that she was nominated to today, it's 164 days. She was nominated November 8th, 164 days. Since the time she was confirmed by the Judiciary Committee till today, it's 54 days, or 52, 54, whatever it is. It is more than twice as much as the president was talking about. The last 7 nominees for Attorney General combined had to wait 24 days between the Judiciary Committee hearing, approving them, and the floor vote in the Senate. 24 days for 7. And she's up to, I think, it's either 52 or 54 today. More than the last 7 combined. And as the president pointed out, this just shows how screwed up this Senate is.
I have to say that there are times where the dysfunction in the Senate just goes too far. This is an example of it. It's gone too far. Enough. Enough.
Enough, said the president. Enough. You know, I was waiting for him to go, enough. That's probably what I would have done anyhow. And so he says, come on, let's get it over with. This Judiciary Committee has already approved her with 3 Republican votes. So, damn it, just get a vote.
Call Loretta Lynch for a vote. Get her confirmed. Put her in place. Let her do her job. This is embarrassing.
Embarrassing. And when you look at it, he said, there's only one reason why this is happening.
Nobody can describe a reason for it beyond political gamesmanship in the Senate.
Yeah. Love to know what you think about this. 866-55-PRESS. But anyhow, I it was unusual for the president to show so much emotion and so much anger, but well-deserved. I mean, this is an outrageous display of pure political partisanship in the Senate. First of all, one of the reasons it's taken so long is because when she was nominated, Republicans said, oh, no, please. It would be wrong to push her confirmation now because we're going to take over the Senate. This was right after the election. We're going to take over the Senate in January. So the right thing to do would be to wait until January. And then Mitch McConnell said, and we promise her a fair treatment and an expeditious hearing. He lied through his teeth. So the president and the Democrats waited until January. And then it wasn't until the end of February that they got around approving her in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And now here we are, the 20th of April, and they still haven't had a vote. Number one. Number two, the reason a lot of Republicans, starting with Ted Cruz, say they're opposed to Loretta Lynch and will not vote for her is because she thinks that the president acted legally when he signed the orders on immigration reform. You know, as some Republicans have said, really? Get serious. You really expect a person who's been nominated by the president for a top job to disagree with the president that nominated her? Of course she agrees with the president. She's on his team. I mean, this is silly. Embarrassing. As Jeb Bush said over the weekend, yeah, the Senate ought to vote to confirm her. He said presidents have a right to pick their own team. That's what it's all about, right? And then thirdly, Mitch McConnell now says, and he said again last week, well, yeah, we'll vote for her, but we can't vote on this until we get this child sex trafficking bill passed. And, of course, the problem with that is Republicans are trying to force an unrelated anti-abortion amendment onto this legislation. But the real question I have is, what, Mitch McConnell? Are you saying the Senate can only do one thing at a time?
Sounds like it.
I mean, Jesus, even Jerry Ford could walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, the whole agenda of the Senate stops, and they do one thing. And then they start again, and they do one thing. And then there's, good Lord, no wonder they don't get anything done. The president said it right. It's embarrassing. And you know what it is? Loretta Lynch would be the first woman of color to serve as Attorney General of the United States. And that's exactly why Republicans are against her. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership. before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama unloading on the Senate on Friday for failing to confirm Loretta Lynch. Again, Mitch McConnell keeps saying, oh, we'll vote on it someday. But, we got to get this other bill done first, meaning we've got to force a totally unrelated anti-abortion amendment on a sex. You would think legislation to crack down on child sex trafficking is something that the United States Senate, Republicans and Democrats, could just come together and pass and get it done. It's such a horrific problem. And so many young women being brutalized and raped because of this in this trafficking business, that to crack down on that would be something everybody could agree we just ought to do.
Yeah.
And not play political games with that.
Right.
This is just something so important, we just ought to do it. No, not Mitch McConnell. He sees this because so many Democrats want to vote for it. He sees this as an opportunity to put a totally unrelated, again, anti-abortion provision in that legislation, and then to hold Loretta Lynch up, hold her hostage until they force an agreement on that. And we've got to come back to one other thing on this. As the president pointed out, nobody has come up with any reason to doubt the qualifications of Loretta Lynch to be Attorney General. She has put members of the mob behind bars. She has put terrorists behind bars. She has been approved twice for some of the toughest jobs in law enforcement by this United States Senate. So everybody has to agree that she's qualified for the job. And, of course, the irony of it is these Republicans, they hate Eric Holder, but by not voting on her, they're leaving Eric Holder in the job. It's just a bunch of idiots, every one of them, starting with Mitch McConnell.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, you bet it is. 33 minutes after the hour now. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, our studio on Capitol Hill. Just down the street from the United States Capitol building. A little rainy day here in Washington, D.C., and we're brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America, the good men and women of the Laborers Union. The very foundation of construction jobs, they all start with the Laborers Union. Building a Better America, and that's their website under President Terry O'Sullivan, LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, buildsamerica.org. Check it out. We had... today is a big day, April 20, but April 15 was a big day, too, in the fast food world with over 200 demonstrations in over 200 cities by fast food workers demanding $15 minimum wage, and the right to form a union. A lot of that activity centered in Seattle, Washington, where Huffington Post labor reporter Dave Jamieson was on the scene, and he's here in studio with us this half hour. Dave, good to see you.
Hey, Bill, good to be here.
Everything good? You like that little jaunt to the West Coast, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Great city.
Great excuse to get out of town for a few days.
Yeah, and particularly to Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
One of the most beautiful American cities.
My first time. Wonderful place.
Nice. Yeah.
Great people, great food.
And they, about a year ago, came up with a $15 minimum wage, right? How's it going?
Yeah, this is kind of where it started. Yeah. So where it really began was at SeaTac at their airport, where they had a very tailored minimum wage bill that would give a $15 minimum wage immediately to the airport workers. Now, a lot of that is still tied up in court, but I did talk to some workers who are under that law already, and they got 50, 60% pay increases pretty much overnight because of that law.
Wow.
Which really,
significant.
Can change your life, as you
Sure.
can imagine, when you go from making $9.50 an hour to $15.
Were these like baggage handlers?
Well, these were people who worked at an airport parking service.
Uh-huh.
So, they do valet for people flying out of the airport. So it was so fascinating to talk to them about how, like, the stress it took out of their lives, when suddenly you're not really freaked out about a car breakdown, like throwing your life in a complete turmoil. Because they got these big raises, it's not like they're rich now.
No. They're still barely above
that
the
works
poverty
out
level,
to
right?
that works out to a $30,000 salary, which for valet parking ain't bad, but that's not. You're not getting wealthy off of that. But what they said was after they got these increases, maybe they were able to move into a slightly better apartment. They didn't worry so much about paying off the utilities, and they weren't, freaked out over credit debt and these other things they carry month to month. So that was really interesting to see. That hasn't hit every business yet because it's been tied up in court.
I was going to say, has it moved beyond the airport?
Well, they have the law on the books in Seattle, but that one is kind of rolling out slowly. I think those workers are at $10 or $11 tops now. I forget where exactly that number is. I think it might even be still under 10, but they're going to get to $15 by like 2018, 2019, depending on how large it was kind of a complex law, depending on how big the business is and that sort of thing. So they've got kind of a slow rollout going there, but in SeaTac, boom, it was overnight.
Now, on the 15th, we had we talked a couple of days before to Mary Kay Henry, head of the SEIU.
Yeah.
Who pointed out these demonstrations are going to take place, I think they did in over 200 cities nationwide, for fast food workers now. We're focusing on that. And they've been pretty effective.
They have. That's been like one of the really amazing stories of the labor movement over the last few years is the growth of that movement. It's been kind of really something to see. I've been, each time when they talk about another strike coming, I wonder, well, how can they, make this one bigger than the last one, but they do manage to pull that off. And this one, there was tens of thousands of people out in places like New York and Chicago. Most of that is obviously protesters as opposed to just people walking off their jobs for the day. But
right.
I have met a lot of these people who say they put in a strike card for that day. I was down in Charleston last year for one of these and hung out with a bunch of workers who'd submitted their strike cards at McDonald's, Arby's, all these different restaurants. And it's a bold thing to do. They're protected under the law to do this. These are protected strikes, but it's still a scary thing to do when you're making $9 or $10 an hour, or even often, usually probably less than that, to tell your boss, hey, I'm not coming in today. I'm with these rabble rousers today, and I'm going to be I'm going to be shaming you outside the restaurant. And that's really what goes on. And it's a bold thing.
Just as a slight tangent here, I must say I admire your choice of places where you go to cover these big stories.
Yes.
Like Seattle, Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, New York would be a little easy.
Paris next, is that what it is?
Yeah, I do research on the restaurants I might be eating at and sort of plan my reporting trips around that.
That's smart.
A lot of these protests were focused around McDonald's because they're the chief culprit. So McDonald's, feeling the heat, did a little bit on But they didn't really fool anybody, did they?
Yeah, so this was really interesting because they rolled out their own minimum wage, right? I think they're going to get people to $9. Yeah. This shows you sort of the whole franchise thing, because this applies to like 10% of workers wearing a McDonald's uniform, because that's how few McDonald's restaurants are actually corporate run. These are mostly franchise. Yes,
yeah, right.
So they there's an interesting question of what they can tell their franchisees they have to do in terms of wages. They haven't tried to tell them to do anything yet.
But they tell them everything.
They do. They tell them
else,
plenty to do.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
they tell you sort of what the store's got to look like, what you got to have on the menu, and there's lots of friction with that. There was a really fascinating report out last week about all the disgruntlement among the franchisees about where the direction McDonald's is heading in. And they're saying, they want us to do all these fancy things, let you customize your burger, but they also want to have the dollar menu. The franchisees feel like they're getting pulled in all these different directions. But it really tells you a lot about this franchise model. Most people don't know that when you go into a store, it's actually some guy who probably owns a few McDonald's running it, not exactly McDonald's per se. And that's the way the system is built, and that system's kind of under threat right now on a lot of legal fronts.
But you would never know that because McDonald's exercises such control over what's on the menu, what the uniforms are like. I mean,
that's the whole idea. Whether you're here or in Bangkok or wherever,
right.
You're supposed to, as a consumer, know that when I go into McDonald's, I'm going to be able to get a Big Mac, and people are going to have the uniforms on that I'm used to. That's the way they've designed the system, and in a lot of ways, they get to shift a lot of the hassle and the liabilities onto the franchisees. And a lot of these folks are saying now that it's just getting harder and harder.
Are any of the other fast food chains showing any response, or do they pay more than McDonald's?
Well, the others.
I mean, what about BK?
Luckily for them,
what about Wendy's?
Luckily for them, they're not in the crosshairs the way McDonald's is. SEIU has just made a point of like, we're going to go after McDonald's because in large part they really are the face of fast food. They are. Although I think Subway actually has more locations than McDonald's. Even Subway is everywhere. But they're not getting beat up as badly as McDonald's in terms of the PR. But I've seen it's really fascinating scene when you go to a random Wendy's or something during one of these strikes, and it's a complete mob scene, right outside, and you got some manager who's just like, what is going on here? What am I going to do? With protesters like pouring into the restaurant. And some of these, they have had like a critical mass where they were able to shut down certain restaurants where like they got enough workers to walk out that they literally couldn't operate that day, which is really, really something to see.
Yeah. That shows the impact of these things, right?
Yeah.
And blocking traffic or blocking access to the store as well.
I saw in Seattle, watched about a dozen people get arrested for civil disobedience. And one thing that was interesting about last week is that this has sort of spread beyond fast food. You've got like adjunct professors involved at certain schools because they make so little money, and SEIU is organizing them. Part of the protest I saw in Seattle is hundreds of people marched into Seattle University, like calling for, and calling for a living wage for the adjuncts, because a lot of them make like $13,000 a year.
Adjunct professors?
Yeah, adjunct professors. Wow. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. And you got child care workers, people in all these different,
and home health care workers.
Yeah, home health care workers. Broadly service sector, but people in really different pockets of the economy who are just really, really struggling. And so they're hopping on board this fight for 15 thing too.
That's one big area of activity for labor unions these days, and another is gearing up to oppose TPP, or the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And there was some movement on that last week. We'll get into that with Dave Jamieson here when we come back at HuffingtonPost.com. Join the conversation. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
You got it 13 minutes before the top of the hour. Zeke Miller from Time Magazine here as a friend of Bill for the entire next hour. Another good friend, Dave Jamieson, Huffington Post labor reporter here in studio with us. Dave, before we move on to TPP, one footnote on minimum wage. Nobody talks, well, very few people talk about when you talk about minimum wage, that there's a different wage for waitresses and waiters.
Yeah.
Because of tips.
That's right. It's $2.13 in the states where they don't mandate a higher one. Not a lot of money.
13 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they get that
That's
because
unbelievable.
The employers get that tip credit because the workers get tips. So the presumption is that the tips make up the difference between $2.13 and getting you at least to whatever the normal minimum wage is. And that's usually the case, but there's obviously a lot of downsides for this for the workers because that wage hasn't moved in over 20 years, right? That $2.13. So over the years, we as diners have been like subsidizing an ever growing portion of the waiters and waitresses' wages. And it creates a lot of headaches because there's so little money withheld for taxes and that sort of thing with waiters. that this has become sort of a rallying cry in the minimum wage world to get that raised.
Do they have to report tips?
They do, and I think now
pay taxes on them.
They do, yeah. And now I think they, for a lot of years it was probably easier to underreport, but now with the way the prominence of credit cards, I think a lot of that gets automatically reported, in terms of how much they're really earning.
Is there any movement to raise the minimum wage and lower the tip?
Well,
or just raise the minimum wage?
Yeah. So one thing that some places are doing is they're like getting rid of the tip credit. In some of these states where they're hiking the minimum wage, they want to just throw it out because they feel it's not really fair to servers. But it's going to be really interesting to see in Congress because the restaurant lobby is huge. The National Restaurant Association, the other NRA, as they're often called, they're really powerful, and they got this thing frozen back in like the 90s, under Clinton actually. And it hasn't moved since. So as if we ever get a minimum wage deal out of Congress, there's this big question hanging over it, like basically are the servers going to get hosed again and carved out of this? Democrats, the progressive Democrats are promising that they're not going to let that happen, but when all the deals get done, who knows? They could be the people who get burned on this.
I was at the White House Friday with the president's news conference with the Prime Minister Renzi of Italy, and the president was asked about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He saluted Senator Ron Wyden and Senator Orrin Hatch, Republican Democrat, for coming together with a deal, and the president insisted. He said he would tell his friends in the labor movement, organized labor, that this was the best thing for America. Unions don't see it that way.
No, not at all. They hate this deal. They've hated it all along. There's a lot of sort of lingering concern and suspicion post-NAFTA over these trade deals, and more recent ones like the Colombian one just a few years. Their concern is what sort of strong environmental and labor standards are you going to have, put into these things, and that's the progressive side as a whole are worried about that. And like in Colombia, they had some labor standards put in there, but like trade unionists are still getting murdered relentlessly in Colombia. So there's obvious concern about how strong the standards are going to be in TPP if this thing gets moving, and so it's really fascinating to watch. I mean, the president is really putting himself out there on this, and he's facing a revolt in the party over this. And
if he gets it, he will get it with Republican votes, not Democratic votes.
That's right. I mean, Republicans want this more than Democrats, but they're going to need Democratic votes to get this over the line. And it's not clear that they have them yet. And this thing, it could just blow up.
But the debate is not so much over the deal, because we don't know what the deal is, as the fast track authority, which the president is asking. The president said Friday, again, I don't know whether this is true, I don't think he's lying, that every president has had fast track authority, Republicans and Democrats, and he wants it too, which means Congress doesn't even see this deal until it's completed, and then they vote up or down.
That's right.
They can't amend it?
No, they're not. They don't get their hands in there. It gets put on a plate in front of them, and they get an upper. Yeah, that's what worries people.
Right. You would, and during the process of the negotiation, I mean, we've had Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, for example, and others in studio here to tell us. So you have business leaders at the table, and you've got federal bureaucrats at the table, but members of Congress don't get to see any of what's being discussed, again, until there is a final deal, and then all they can do is say yes or no.
Yeah, and it's to see sort of the open hostility to a lot of this among, inside the own party, his own party. It could be a huge embarrassment for him.
Yeah. So is he going to get it, do you think?
Hey, I'm no betting man. I don't know, Bill, but we'll see. It could be a really, really embarrassing moment for him.
Yeah. It's a nice, interesting challenge for Republicans, too, because they don't want to give Obama. A tendency is not to give Obama credit or let him accomplish anything. And if they join forces with him on this, it would be the one thing that his own party doesn't want. So You know
what?
Cuts both ways.
I think a lot of Democrats are confused as to why the White House wants this so badly. You may see this as some kind of a legacy thing or what.
And the president said Friday that the reason, in response to your question, the reason is because most of our trade now is going to be in Asia,
Mm-hmm.
and if we're not number one, China will be number one, and we need this trade. That's the argument that he's making. We'll see how that plays out. Dave Jamieson, good to see you, my friend.
Good
Thanks
to
for
be
coming
here.
in.
Thanks, Bill.
Labor reporter, HuffingtonPost.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. Well, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, Zeke Miller from Time Magazine here is a friend of Bill for the entire next hour. It's going to be fun. President Obama, he's got a busy schedule today. Meets with the Secretary after he gets a briefing at 10 o'clock. Meets with the Secretary of State, John Kerry, at 11. Joe Biden will also be there. And then he has a meeting and a working lunch with the Crown Prince of the United Arab Emirates. Then later this afternoon, he does something he loves doing, welcoming the 2015 College Football Playoff National Champion Ohio State University Buckeyes to the East Room of the White House. And then he and the Vice President meet with the Secretary of the Treasury this afternoon, late this afternoon, actually around 3:15. we have our daily briefing with Press Secretary Josh Earnest at 1 p.m. We're back with Zeke Miller, covers the White House for Time Magazine.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Coast to coast from Chicago.
Hey, you think these first 2 hours were good? Well, they were, but we got another hour coming up, hour number 3. You're going to have to wait on Free Speech TV until 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central. So jump over to our video stream and stay with us right away for the immediate broadcast at that youtube.com/talker, TAWKR-TV. Zeke Miller from Time Magazine will be here for the entire hour. As a friend of Bill, we'll find out what's happening at the White House, and Seung Kim from Politico joins us to tell us what's going on in the Congress. All of that coming up with you in hour number 3 on Talker TV and Free Speech TV.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's 2, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions. So from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. We'll get get this, we've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Lindsey Graham says there's a 91% chance that he may run for president, and a 99.9% chance that he will never make it. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? Monday, April 20. Here we go. The Bill Press Show. Great to see you today. Welcome. Welcome to the news of the day, whether it's happening here in Washington, D.C., around the country, or around the globe. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it all. Good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend, and now ready to dive into another very, very busy week. My God, this week, Washington is just a buzz because it leads up to the Nerd Prom next Saturday, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We'll bring you up to date on all the news again and want to hear from you. Use our toll-free line, 866-55-PRESS, to ask your questions or tell us what you think about what's going on. Or just send us your comments on Twitter, @BP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. On the political front, nothing more exciting than the Republican Leadership Conference up in New Hampshire over the weekend. And just back from the Granite State, political reporter for Time Magazine, good friend Zeke Miller here in studio with us.
Good morning,
Zeke,
Bill.
it's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know, I must say, I've been in New Hampshire many times, but I never go there until, like, primary time, so I've never seen it in good weather.
It's lovely this time of year. It was sunny, didn't rain. It was 75.
I can't imagine Nashua, New Hampshire, when it's not just freezing.
Well, it was something 80 something here over the weekend. It was nicer up in New Hampshire than it was in D.C. This weekend. I was happy to be there, but. There's another, speaking of not going to New Hampshire, Dan Balls, great Washington Post political reporter, mentioned this to me. And I think he heard it from either Johnny Apple or David Broder, famed political reporters, something to the effect of he never goes up to the North Country if a candidate's not polling above 15%. So none of us are going to have to go up north in New Hampshire for quite some time.
Yeah, because nobody's even close to that.
Nobody's
right?
close to 15%.
How about it? You joining our team here, of course, this morning, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello,
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
Here we are.
And Monty Kansler is filling in as our videographer today on Free Speech TV and the video stream, Talker TV, worldwide, youtube.com/Talker TV. Let me just put it this way. 19 candidates. How could you keep track of them all?
It's hard, actually. There was a moment on Saturday when we were trying to compile a list of who wasn't there. We all knew Ben Carson was in Ohio. He was at the Cuyahoga County GOP. And then at some point, we got a press release from the Rick Santorum folks. They weren't there either. They were in South Carolina, and there were just so many people in the field. It's sort of just hard to keep track of them.
19 did show up, which means that maybe. See, Larry Sabato and I have this thing running. I always say the number is 19. He says it's 21.
I think it's 21.
I think he's right.
Well, do you count some of the people who aren't going to run, but the Kings or the and then there's the local New Hampshire guy who's running.
Yeah, no, wouldn't count him.
Yeah.
But Jim Gilmore from Virginia?
He doesn't count. I don't think he counts.
I don't either. All right. And we'll be talking about New Hampshire and the rest of the political news of the day with Zeke Miller. Here for the entire hour as a friend of Bill. That's great. And then Seung Min Kim from Politico will bring us up to date on what's going on in the Congress, particularly with the Loretta Lynch nomination at the half hour. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. We go to the box office since it is Monday morning, and the winner is Furious 7. The Fast and Furious franchise continues to hold strong, even though there were some big movies opening up this weekend, including Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, which I did not see and will not see. But Furious 7 picked up $29.1 million. This is its third weekend of release, and some estimates show that it might not be number one, but it stays at number one. This puts it past the $1 billion mark globally. Domestically, it has earned $294.4 million.
I got to tell you, maybe I'm just missing the boat here, but there is nothing out there right now that I want to see.
I agree. I can't think of anything.
You know what I saw yesterday at the wonderful AFI Theater here in Washington, D.C. was Guardians of the Galaxy on the big screen again. Because it's an old movie that they're showing. I went to go see. Right. But otherwise, McDonald's and Taco Bell are in full-blown war over their breakfast items. Taco Bell is trying to take away some of McDonald's business on the breakfast market. And so McDonald's is today in the San Diego market and then hopefully nationwide. They're going to be rolling out the all-day breakfast, which we have talked about. But not only that, Business Insider reports that select McDonald's locations in Pennsylvania are letting customers trade in Taco Bell breakfast receipts for a free Egg McMuffin. So if you go try the Taco Bell breakfast and you don't like it, just bring the receipt to McDonald's.
I think it's pretty clear. Double up. I mean,
or you can double up. You got breakfast and you time it right, man.
I think it's pretty clear.
Just fine.
Do you want an Egg McMuffin or do you want a breakfast burrito?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so
you go to Taco Bell for the burrito and McDonald's for the McMuffin.
I can see doing that. I mean, Taco Bell now has the biscuit taco. So it's a taco made out of a biscuit.
That's not a biscuit.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. They're calling it a biscuit taco. It's a crime against food. But they've got a little biscuit taco that they're wedging chicken and eggs and all kinds of crap in that. I wouldn't bother. And this story bears repeating. We talked about it earlier in the show, but the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Can't believe it.
This is a report from ESPN and Fox Sports, both reporting that the Eagles have signed Tim Tebow. He's back. He had 2 seasons off, not playing in the NFL. He went on to do some commentary, and the head coach of the Eagles, Chip Kelly, previously had worked him out to see if he might be a fit, and apparently he was a fit.
I'm not giving up on my pro football dreams. This is
the moral here.
Yeah.
Never give up.
Never give up.
The Eagles now have 3 of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in Mark Sanchez, who's a mess, Sam Bradford, who's made out of glass. The guy gets hurt in the first game of every season, and now Tim Tebow. Between the 3 of them and their entire careers, they have one single playoff
Plus,
win.
you have to take 2 seasons off, and you really think you could come back and play full strength?
It's going to be a hot mess. I can't wait.
As a New York Giants fan?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm loving this.
Hug an Eagles fan today. If you know an Eagles fan, hug them and hold them tight because it's ugly.
All right. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Peter. So, Zeke, you were up in New Hampshire, and I wasn't. But from what I've heard, it seems to me there was a theme to the 19 candidates who, all of whom spoke at this leadership conference. Let's hear just a few voices here. See if we can detect the theme. Donald Trump.
I do. I know Hillary very well. I do. I can beat her, and I think most other people will not.
How about Rand Paul?
I think that her dereliction of duty, her not doing her job, her not providing security for our forces, for our diplomatic missions, should forever preclude her from holding higher office.
Or maybe Bobby Jindal.
We can win. We must win. We will win. It is absolutely critical that we beat Hillary Clinton come 2016.
I think the theme is Hillary Clinton, right?
Just a little bit. I mean, as much as the Republican Party is at war with itself, everyone knows their path to winning the nomination is who the electorate believes will be the most likely candidate to be able to take on Hillary Clinton. And none of their arguments are logically consistent. You have Ted Cruz on one side saying the reason we lost in 2008 and 2012 is because we weren't conservative enough. Bobby Jindal says the same thing. We weren't, sincerely conservative enough. And then you have on sort of Rand saying we have to expand the party, reach out to new voters who weren't with us, not sort of bring out the base. You have Jeb saying something very similar. These are contradictory views of how to take on Hillary Clinton, and so they're fighting with each other as much as it is. But the goal, sort of what they're going for every day. The best applause line, the best laugh line that they will get will be a shot at Hillary Clinton, and that was Carly Fiorina's line. She brought up she was asked on Fox News about female hormones, and then it turned it around on Bill Clinton, and she went there, and it was by far the best line of the day, and that's the power of Hillary Clinton in the Republican primary.
So of the 19 that you saw taking their best shot up there, I don't know if this is a fair question, but which one impressed you the most?
Lindsey Graham. He is.
That's an answer I never expected.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of just sheer entertainment value, in terms of sheer ability to get up on a stage.
Did he connect with the voters?
He connected with the voters. He was, he has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And it shows. He is so unguarded. He's willing to make self-deprecating jokes. He's just the same way when he's talking to reporters backstage and when he is talking to voters on stage. Right. He is he's a riot. I mean, does that mean he can connect to voters and actually win? No. But this is New Hampshire. This is not a normal state. This is where John McCain was left for dead in July of 2007 and came back and won. And you have a whole bunch of folks trying to make that move. I mean, Chris Christie also making that same play, and he did pretty well as well. And George Pataki actually, sort of exceeded expectations. And those are going to be the three that are going to base their entire candidacies on, can they connect in New Hampshire? And it's going to be really interesting to watch. But I think the three of them, had the most fun this week partly because of that. That's why they're there. It's, they can't win Iowa. They know they can't perform well in Iowa. It's going to be New Hampshire. It's going to be in town halls. It's going to be some version of straight talk or telling it like it is, or insert whatever hokey phrase you want to use for it. But that's how they win, or the only way they have relevance, and so they have nothing to lose other than do that.
Chris Christie. Who are the three you think? Chris Christie, Pataki?
I think Christie, Pataki, and Lindsey Graham for sure. It's New Hampshire or bust.
Yeah.
And Lindsey says, he has to place top three in New Hampshire, and then he has South Carolina as a buffer, which is fine. It's probably more like top two in New Hampshire for him. Otherwise, South Carolina doesn't want to lose, not vote for the ultimate nominee again like they did with Newt Gingrich, but. With Chris Christie, it's 1-2 in New Hampshire or go home.
So let me ask you about a couple of the others. Scott Walker.
He
had a good weekend.
Yeah, he had a fine weekend. He spoke on Saturday night, sort of at a smaller donor event. There's a wedding in the main ballroom, so they had to sort of move to a smaller venue. It was kind of funny. But yeah, he had a fine weekend, connected well, did a couple of events on the side. Did not have that breakout moment. Nobody really had a breakout moment in New Hampshire, and there probably won't be one for a while. This is going to be the long slog to the nomination.
Yeah, right.
Once the debate starts, maybe there'll be some intensity picking up. But I mean, Scott Walker is struggling now to find to keep the momentum alive. He had that big bump at the end of January in Iowa at the Steve King summit, and he's staffed up big. He went on a couple of foreign trips. He's had a lot of trouble though sustaining that momentum. He's having to get a lot of he's studying up. He's learning, but he's not. He's not Jeb Bush as the front runner, somebody who can stay out front and can comfortably stay out front without worrying about being attacked from behind.
How about John Kasich showing up all of a sudden? I mean,
yeah, he's been talking about this for about a year and a half, 2 years to people on and off. I'm thinking about it, which is amazing given that 4.5 years ago, John Kasich was politically dead with an approval rating like in the low 30s. Might have even been lower than that at one point.
We forget he did run for president
in 2000.
Yeah, once before, right?
Once before, but he's elected. He leaves the Congress, goes back home, runs for governor, wins, goes after public sector unions, and that sort of blows up in his face. Then he goes out and expands Medicaid, and then was really interesting. Sort of he sort of is going to do it his own way. He's been flirting with this for a while. He goes to New Hampshire and sort of says, in his most forward way of this entire cycle, I'm looking at this, basically telling people there, keep your powder dry, think of me, don't commit to anyone yet. I'm going to do, he still hasn't decided yet, and
he's waiting for a signal from God?
Waiting for a signal from God, but also, he's waiting to see if there's a spot for him.
Did people laugh out loud when he said that?
Oh no! It was sort of it's like it's family, and what does the Lord want me to do with my life? And like that, and it connected well in the room. I mean, his problem is he's not the most dynamic speaker at all. It's very eat your vegetables. He got up there and he spoke about balancing the budget, and he spoke about what he did in Congress 20 some odd years ago. And then what he did in Ohio a couple of years ago, and it wasn't the red meat. There was no shot at Hillary Clinton or shot at Barack Obama, and that's in a way. And he acknowledged it at one point. I'm not. If I could do that easily, I'm a fighter. I can do that. I can take it. That's too easy. I want to tell you the truth, and that connects in New Hampshire, but he actually has to make that decision to get in, and he's not there yet.
All right. We haven't talked yet about Jeb Bush, who had who kind of broke with the pack over the weekend too. So let's hold that for right after the break. You've heard the news. It was the Hillary bashing session up in New Hampshire, or the kind of the dress rehearsal for all of them. 19 trotting up to New Hampshire to please the party faithful. What do you think? Who impressed you, if anyone? 866-55-PRESS. Zeke Miller here from Time Magazine.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Hate it? Useful? Not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 25 minutes after the hour. Seung Kim from Politico will join us on the latest for the Loretta Lynch confirmation vote, not yet scheduled. And right now we're talking the politics of the moment with Zeke Miller from Time. Just back from New Hampshire. Of course, you can follow him at time.com. So, with all these guys, and then there's Jeb Bush.
Yes.
Right, who's trying to, people consider him the front runner?
I mean, he's the one with the money right now, and he leads in national polls, which don't really mean a ton right now. It's a lot of name recognition. But it's also, he has the most established political network because he's inheriting sort of the, his brothers and his fathers, in the country. He's going to raise, absurd amounts of money. Sort of on par. He's the only one right now who can raise as much as Hillary Clinton on par. I mean, Hillary's going to raise even more, while Republicans are duking out in the primary. But Jeb Bush will be the only one to put up numbers that are even in the same in the same order of magnitude. So that's what we're so he's going to have that advantage, but at the same time, he's not the most dynamic speaker, the most dynamic retail politician. He jokes about taking selfies, but sometimes in speeches, he doesn't quite get the applause line down, and we'll have to say, hey guys, come on, you can clap now. He's not there. He's just, he's a little out of practice. He hasn't run in 12, 13 years. But beyond that, he's also not the, he doesn't like process. He doesn't like running for president. He's one of those people who thinks he'd be a great president, doesn't really like the business of doing it. And it's funny because he for 6 months he talked about, if I'm going to run for president, I'm going to do it joyfully. And it's more dutifully right now. They told me to make 3 jokes in 60 minutes. I'm going to make 3 jokes in 60 minutes. It's very, he's doing it because he has to do it, and it's kind of clear right now. And voters, I think, are going to notice that.
All right. So I haven't asked you about the 3 people who have actually already announced.
Yes.
Ted, we know who they are: Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and Marco Rubio. Just about 30 seconds. Did any one of them shine this weekend?
Not. I mean, Rubio gave a good speech. Rand gave good speech, Cruz gave good speech, but they were all sort of their normal stump speeches. There's nothing surprising. Yeah. It was here, watch 20 people in a room and give the same speech they give on TV every day. It was not. There was nothing beyond that.
They didn't move the ball, move the needle, I guess.
No, nobody really stood out.
Yeah. All right. It's good to have you on the scene, and particularly to have you here to tell us all about it. And when we come back, any hope for any action in Congress on any issue at all? Seung Kim covers that for Politico. We need to talk about Hillary.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
the most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
You bet it is. 33 minutes after the hour now here. It's Monday, April 20. 420. That's a certain message for a lot of potheads around the country. You can celebrate your national. This is Emancipation Day for recreational marijuana around the country, with 4 states now, plus the District of Columbia.
You're still sober, right? You haven't had any weed.
I've got it right here, baby. I haven't had any yet. Today.
Right. All right. Make and bake.
At any rate, we just want to mark that big celebration day and encourage as many of you as possible to take part in it. And don't forget to inhale. At the same time, the president yesterday, I got to tell you, Friday, man, Zeke, you were not there, but at the news conference with Prime Minister Matteo Renzi from Italy, Margaret Taliff asked the question about the Loretta Lynch confirmation and what the president's thoughts were about the continued delay. And as you know, it's very unusual to see the president express emotion, but boy, he was really pissed, and he showed it in his response. Here's part of it.
I have to say that there are times where the dysfunction in the Senate just goes too far. This is an example of it. It's gone too far. Enough. Enough.
He did everything but pound the podium.
Twice in 1 week, though. He did the same thing over the when he was asked the question about the 47 senators signing that letter. He's been a little bit more vocal, critical of Congress in the past week or so than he has been in quite some time.
Mm-hmm. And so is Josh Earnest. So are we going to see any action at all on this front? Seung Min Kim covers the Congress for Politico, joining us on our news line this morning. Hello, Seung Min. Good morning. Nice to talk to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Right. So what's up with Loretta Lynch? When's Mitch McConnell? Is he going to schedule a vote? What do we know?
So what we know is that her nomination to the Attorney General has gotten tangled up in a completely unrelated mess over this human trafficking bill. And that stemmed from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell kind of using the Lynch nomination as leverage, or last month when he said, we're not going to move on to the Attorney General vote until Democrats relent on their filibuster of this trafficking bill. And remember, Democrats opposed the trafficking bill because of its abortion-related provisions. But a lot of senators, for whatever reason, were very optimistic at the end of last week that there could be some resolution reached pretty quickly on the trafficking bill, which would then allow the Senator McConnell to bring up the Lynch nomination. So the optimists on Capitol Hill are predicting a vote for Lynch sometime this week. I will wait until wait on judgment of that, but it could move pretty quickly.
Is McConnell really saying that the Senate can only do one thing at a time?
That's kind of what he's saying in relation to this. Obviously, we've seen the Senate move on to the budget, and Senate leaders indicated that if the trafficking impasse holds, they can move on to Iran before resolving this. But I mean, it was clear that Senator McConnell was using the Lynch nomination as leverage on the trafficking bill. Some log jams are starting to break, but again, we don't yet have the details of what that may be just yet.
Just one final thing on Loretta Lynch is the other reason some Republicans like Ted Cruz have said they're going to vote against her is because she believes the president had the legal authority to sign those executive orders on immigration. So she thinks the president acted legally. I just wonder, do they really expect a nominee for Attorney General to say, I disagree with the president who just nominated me for Attorney General?
Republicans deep down, they know that obviously whomever the president nominated to be his top lawyer was not going to disavow his actions.
Sort of the point, right?
And Democrats have pointed that out on numerous occasions. Of course, he would not choose someone who thinks what he did was illegal. However, that's given an avenue for Republicans to say, look, we cannot who believes that what we think is wrong is legal. And that's been kind of the source for much of the objections from Republicans. Some Republicans oppose her for other reasons, but that's been the broad reason.
Running for president, too.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, you just came back from New Hampshire, where Jeb Bush took a different point of view.
Yeah, well, I think first off, the three Republicans in the Senate are going to come out against this because they can't. They're the ones who are going to have to go on the record on Loretta Lynch, and if she does something, if she signs off on some other executive order next year, that sort of thing, that can come back and blow back them just when they're in the middle of the Iowa caucuses and Hampshire primary. Jeb took that other tack last week.
So Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, and Ted Cruz all said no. Is that right?
That appears to be the case. I mean, you know this better than I am. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Of the senators, Ryan says he would support her. Big names, and the one, and they all oppose her.
And so you started to talk about Jeb.
Yeah. So Jeb was at the historic, and he said with crossing that line without saying they should confirm her. He basically said, there's no reason not to confirm her, and then sort of stated what everyone in town knows is that Republicans don't like Eric Holder. They've been he's been their boogeyman for 5 years.
Part of this,
and he's like, the fastest way to get rid of, I don't like Eric Holder. The best way to get rid of Eric Holder, the only way to get rid of Eric Holder is to confirm. If Loretta, and it goes down to Loretta Lynch, we may disagree on a couple of things, but she's better than Eric Holder. A lot of Republicans don't want to, even if they're based, because it's a this is another bludgeon for them against both Lynch and the president.
Yeah. Bush. Now the other issue, the president talked on Friday, Congress, Seung, the TPP, where he's going to get what he wants out of Congress.
Yeah, and that's going to be an issue where he's really going to have to deal with his own party. I think we've seen most of the objections to this have come from Democrats, particularly the liberal Democrats. We don't quite yet know when the Senate is going to take that up. We're looking at perhaps, you go the trafficking first, hopefully, and then the Lynch nomination, then the Iran review bill that passed the Senate Foreign Relations Committee last week, and then the Senate may move on to trade. But the politics of that, you saw Schumer, who's poised to be the next Democratic leader, come out very critical of the legislation, and so that's going to be something that the president's going to have to deal with, obviously, the next several weeks.
Well, yeah, and the issue that the Democrats like Sherrod Brown, Rosa DeLauro in the House have been talking about is not the deal, because we don't know what the deal is. It's the Fast Track Authority.
Exactly.
Which would, Zeke, not under that authority, Congress is really cut out of the process until the very end, and then they vote up or they vote down.
And it's really hard to vote that down.
Yeah. And this is something that, but the president argues, and I actually don't know the facts. I believe he's right that every other president who's asked for it has gotten fast track authority, Democrat and Republican.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So if he gets it this time, Seung, it will be with Republican votes and not Democratic votes.
Yeah, look, first of all, obviously we are in a Republican-controlled Congress, but most Republicans have been very willing to grant him this authority. There are a few Republicans out there who they see this as another broadening of executive power, which they've been very critical for. Obviously, we've seen the issue of executive power come up a lot in immigration and other issues, but on trade and on fast track, Republicans seem to be willing to defer to Obama.
And is there any talk at all about action on an authorization for the use of military force? Zeke, we talked about this at the briefing a lot, right?
Yeah,
at first the president said, I don't need it, right? And then he said, okay, I still don't need it, but yeah, I'd like to have it.
Talk of an AUMF has pretty much gone quiet. I think the final, I hesitate to say nail on the coffin because that's pretty definitive. but the Senate or House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy told reporters last week that that he doesn't foresee action on that anytime soon. And there's a lot of divisions on what that should be. Obviously, the president believes he still has authority under the existing AUMF. So there really isn't this clamoring from Congress, aside from the few legislators who have been very vocal on the issue. There doesn't seem to be this critical mass or the feeling that this needs to get done right now.
It's a great argument for congressional oversight. Congress as a whole, both parties complaining about executive overreach. Whether it be ISIS or whether it be drone campaigns or and at the same time when they're asked to do it, they just completely drop the ball. Both parties here don't want to engage in this discussion because it's politically toxic for them. And and that's and when you talk about the expansion of the executive power, a lot of it's Congress ceding the authority to the president because they don't want to answer those tough questions, and that's partly what we're seeing here.
That's a classic example of it here, right? We have to. He can't just do this on his own. Congress has a role here. Congress has a role. Then you give them a role, and they say. You can do it. Maybe not. All right.
Are you expecting Congress to be consistent? I don't know.
Oh, no. That's the first mistake, for sure. Yeah. You know that. Seung, thanks so much for joining us today by phone. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Congressional reporter for Politico, Politico.com. Back with Zeke Miller. And yes, another announced presidential candidate shows up in New Hampshire today. What's she up to? We'll find out when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the hour. Here we go on Monday, April 20. So Republicans may have had New Hampshire to themselves last week, but oh boy, watch out. Here she comes, Hillary Clinton, arriving today. You going back up there, Zeke?
No,
Zeke
my colleagues
Miller from Time Magazine.
My colleague flew up there to Manchester last night. I feel like
really?
being able to sleep in my own bed for one night, in a week.
You've earned that.
I've earned that, I think. I'll be with her in New York this week, though.
So is this sort of a repeat of the Iowa experience for her?
It's the exact same thing all over
Chipotle? Do they have Chipotles in New Hampshire?
They do have Chipotles in New Hampshire, but Dunkin' Donuts would be probably the more the preferred local stop.
Yeah.
Not the drive-through. You got to go in.
That's right.
Make an appearance.
Yeah.
She's got a series of small group meetings.
Small group of events. One's at a community college. One's at sort of a small business. The same spiel. Probably a couple of diner stops type. Meetings.
Got to do the diners in New Hampshire.
Yeah, diner stop. Meetings with local activists and the like. I mean, unlike Iowa, where there's just a lot of driving around, this is New Hampshire's a little bit more compacted, so maybe a few more smaller events, just because it's easier to pack them in. But again, the whole idea being, a couple of well manufactured TV events, things that will look good on the nightly news, develop some goodwill with party activists, but also very controlled so as not to sort of provoke any sort of something that can blow up in her face as she does this rollout. So no press avail, no press conference, no TV interviews. Very very tightly controlled, and that's it's a textbook campaign launch for some of the way Hillary Clinton has to launch her campaign. That doesn't mean anyone's going to be happy with it, but this is if you're opening up the political science textbook on how to launch this type of campaign, she's doing it 100% right. But she's certainly getting a lot of blowback too.
Starting with the video, right?
The video. I mean, the video made total sense. Make it not about her. It wasn't a coherent message at the end when she started speaking. I mean, it was our families need to be stronger. There was a lot of 6 or 7 word buzz phrases, and that were sort of juxtaposed together, and that would sort of send almost like dog whistles to different segments of the Democratic base, being, I'm with you on this, I'm with you on that, I'm with you on the other thing, and everyone knew what she was talking about, and it was not the most the inspiring, hopey, changey bit that we saw from President Obama. It wasn't it's my time. From 2008. It was a lot more low key by design, and that's I think the key word here. Everything here is by design.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that she's going to have the stage to herself?
No.
Okay. Then who will be on stage with her?
Martin O'Malley, I think, is all but declared. He said he'll make his decision within the next month or so, at the end of May. You don't go this far ahead, this far attacking Hillary Clinton if you're not going to actually do it.
Right.
There's no possible upside to you, pointing out that Hillary Clinton has flip-flopped or has evolved. I think is the preferred term on gay marriage. Repeatedly over the last 8 years, 10 years, and that Martin O'Malley has been there all the way through. And you don't make that point on the same week that she rolls out. There is no upside unless you're going to challenge her. The New York Post reported today with a one unsourced note that Bill de Blasio was going to challenge her. I don't put any stock in that. It's kind of funny though. But
hilarious. It is funny.
But de Blasio spent a couple of days in the Midwest last week, again refusing to endorse Hillary Clinton, attacking her from the left. And that I think there's going to be a powerful coalition of people who aren't running on the left, who are going to sort of, who are going to be throwing barbs at her way to try to move her to the left in that primary. And you're going to have Martin O'Malley, who's going to position himself right there and might be the beneficiary of some of that criticism. But what you're seeing is the entire sort of progressive liberal wing of the Democratic Party try to bring Hillary Clinton closer to them, as Hillary is trying to, make them all feel happy and heard, but also not to move so far that a Republican candidate can knock her out in the general, and that's a real possibility.
Bernie Sanders?
He might, but for him, it's more, it's an ideas one. He'd go in to talk about the subjects he want to talk about. Does he get in if Martin O'Malley's into? Maybe, maybe not. Jim Webb might be in to sort of attack Hillary from the right on some of the foreign policy things. It's sort of an interesting.
But no Elizabeth Warren.
No Elizabeth Warren. You don't say no this many times.
I know, yeah, without really meaning it. But, one of the lines I thought in Hillary's video could have come right out of Elizabeth Warren, where she said the deck is stacked against, in favor of the people.
Exactly. I mean, but that was one of those, if you watch that video, I almost wanted to, to break it up into its component parts. So you have the 90 seconds at the front of the families and this group and that group, and paying for college and raising a kid, and then you have the deck is stacked. The economy's doing better. Like, hey, Barack Obama supporters, he did a good job. But the deck is still stacked. Hey, Elizabeth Warren supporters, come to me. And then there's families need to be strong. And then it cuts. It's a video of a lesbian couple, and like, hey, I'm with I've moved on this issue. Remember where I was 8 years ago? No, I'm there now. And then there's a quick little line about immigration. And it's not a coherent sort of grand vision for the country. It's sort of a it's a hey liberal base. I'm with you.
She'll have time for the grand vision too. Zeke, so much fun, and thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And anytime you go on the road, come back and tell us all about it.
I'm game.
We'll catch you on the road, and I'll be back with a quick wrap up here on this Monday, April 20.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press.
Just a quick
is the Bill Press Show.
Just a quick moment to wish all you potheads a happy 420. Yep, just think, lots to celebrate. Last year, there were only 2 states that had recognized the legalization of recreational marijuana. This year, there are 4 states, plus the District of Columbia. 5 states have measures on the ballot for 2016. 53% of Americans now support the legalization of marijuana. So every good reason to light up and enjoy the holiday, fellow potheads. May your numbers grow. And don't forget to inhale. We'll see you back here again tomorrow.
This
we'll be looking
is
for
the
you.
Bill Press Show.